How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Everything good, loud and clear.
Ooh, we ready. We're on right now. So, how we doing, Cacoa? We like to warm up the crowd a bit and get the people on. And that's what we do. We wait for a few folks to come on. Because as you know, this is being streamed live on Facebook. So you can go ahead and you can share the link if you'd like to. You could let everybody know that on Cacoa. Hey, I can sing now.
We on. Yeah, man, you can do a little thing. Let me just share the post.
I can do a little thing. What do you consider a little thing?
Looting. I said the looting.
A little thing.
A little thing.
Oh my God,
man.
you're not talking about looting.
You can hit keys. We're jumping ahead.
We're not talking. I want to say good afternoon to all of the listeners, all the viewers, those of you who will be logging in later on iTunes as well as on my page, which is Jael Joseph /PLOG, aka also known as Plug. Right. Today we have an exciting show for you. It took a lot for us to get to this point, but we're here and we did it. And I see you drinking something. What are you drinking?
Cacoa.
Ooh, look at the mug. Let me see the mug.
Break. It's break time.
Break time.
Break time.
Well, no break time for you because we're gonna be on hot time right about now, right?
I may enjoy my break. I just wake up, you know.
I know you look like you just wake up. You look fresh to death. You slapping your face to get a. You woke up like. Oh my gosh. All right. So for those of you who are just logging in right about now, we are going to be going on with Jael Fadelle. He's on already with us. And I like to give a little history as to how I know my guests just before I start off. I have never actually met Jael Fadelle, but we've been Facebook friends for a very, very long time. I think probably ever since I got my Facebook page, you've been my Facebook friend. Yes. I think it was just something that Facebook connected us with people who were friends of friends of friends of friends. And Jael, who is a fellow Dominican / Canadian, just like myself, he just happened to be my Facebook friend. And then I met his mom. I always knew of his mom, but I met his mom. I mean, how many girls you have in your life? And I meet your mom before they meet you.
Okay.
I'm feeling myself.
You said my mother messaged you before this.
Listen, I'm feeling myself. Your mother messaged me, you know. Your mother messaged me and she tell me, I wonder if you'll be able to wake up early to do this.
More to come on. I have a story for you about that.
Oh my God, this is hilarious. And I met his mom. I know your sister and I know your dad. I know your entire family with the exception of you. And
you know my other two brothers?
I know one of them. I've met one of them, but I haven't met the other.
Okay.
And it just so happened that my sister, again, who has been one of my biggest supporters, one of my biggest fans, she runs Carrie Scholar, which you are part of, Danielle. And
That's right.
And she sent out, a little broadcast saying if anybody was interested. And Daniel was one of the folks that that actually connected. And I went through his profile and stuff. And me, I stush. So I like to get, certain people on my show. So if let me just put it out there. If you ever get to come on my show, it's a privilege, right? Look at that. It's a privilege. So this is how I kind of sort of know Daniel. Daniel is a Canadian foreign teacher and a program coordinator at Incheon. Yes, that's in South Korea. and he was raised in Dominica, and then he returned to Canada to study sociology at the University of Ottawa and project management at Humber College in Toronto. In 2014, driven by the urge to travel and see what the other side of the world looked like, he began to work as a foreign teacher in Korea. Since then, he has traveled to nearly 20 countries across Asia, Europe, North America, and has taught near 2,000 students from South Korea, China, Japan, Russia, Cambodia, and Canada. He is now responsible for the curriculum design, creation, and implementation, which cater to students from the kindergarten up to university level. And in 2017, that's just March of 2017, he was awarded Best Teacher in recognition for his work and contributions to Loy Edu and education in Korea. I want to welcome my fellow Dominican Canadian. Give a round of applause for Daniel Fadelle.
Paksu in Korea, Paksu in Korea. I clap for myself all the
time. Welcome to Cacoa Tea.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, of course. Thank you for that pleasurable introduction. I know where you go, but that's a good introduction, I must say. Thank you very much.
I did my research, eh? And you know what I like about like really checking out people? You can get information without having to create it. So I mean, why not just steal his own introduction? You know?
You can see that again, and you can relive it by logging on to my blog, danielfadelle.com.
Got the OSHA.
The about section.
You just throw that in there.
Plugs.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you here on my show. And I always thought of this show because I always want to know my guests, because you can have all these fancy trinkets and bells and whistles in your introductions and in your in who you are. But I want to know from your perspective, who is Daniel?
Who is Daniel? Daniel is your everyday person, right? Trying to figure out life, walking many types of journeys. I came from, I was born in Canada, right? You said that. Grew up in Dominica, and then like Dominica is like, I did music. I was into swimming. I used to swim for Dominica national team, right? Before I started getting into music, we would go to St. Lucia all the time and compete, right? Like the whole team. That was a good time era. Always made music about Dominica, went back to Canada, started studying, always like got involved with the West Indian communities there. By the time I was in university, we always had like the Caribbean parties and get-togethers. Always involved in like new topics of discussion. That's why I like sociology. It actually took me 5 years to do my bachelor's degree, usually 4 degrees, right? It took me 5 because I started in psychology, then I switched to political science, then I went to conflict studies and human rights, and then I landed on sociology and criminology, right? Because that's just, so going back and forth between the programs, like it
took me. Are you trying to tell me you were a confused child?
A little bit confused. I like everything. I like everything. So, you know, they say like jack of all trades, master of none, sort of. I was just like a jack of all trades, you know, still trying to master everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so most people, like when they go into university, well, not most people, I'll say some people, right? They go into university and they know exactly what they wanted to do, and then they finish it, right? And then they move on to their master's and their PhD, like the straight up, the streamline, right? Mm-hmm. But I was interested in all of these different topics, right? And then it wasn't until I landed on sociology, that's where I was like, oh, I took mostly these courses. This is what I like, right? Because I went from mostly being creative and involved and active into like academic study, right? And it wasn't that like I didn't like it. Like I was always reading. I like reading books and stuff, but I didn't have a very tight idea of what I wanted to get my degree in, what I wanted to like complete my studies in. So it just happened to be sociology, right? And who is Daniel? I don't know. Like Daniel is a number of different things, right? Daniel is whoever you need him to be. My father is a very creative person. My mother's a creative person, but both of them are very like solid people in terms of like business and like being present in society and like contributing and doing these sort of things. If you know my mother, you know that's how she is. My father, he works in the government, been like in public service nearly his whole life. I travel a lot, so it's like I get to meet a lot of these different people who have various types of interests like myself.
Mhm.
And then especially so in teaching. So I think that's why what pulled me to teaching, because I get to not just teach, but like I have to learn so many different things to be able to teach it. So every day I'm learning something new to be able to teach it. Right? It's
Now,
not
now,
just
now, pull
okay.
back a bit. You said that you spoke a little bit about, or you touched a little bit about you getting into university and
Mhm.
not being sure of what you wanted to do and trying out few different things. Do you think a lot of you sort of picking and choosing and nipping and saying, okay, probably I don't want to do this, had um had a different effect on you in the sense of I'm going to compare you to a regular Caribbean student who has to leave home and go and study because their mother
Mm.
sent them to study psychology, which is what you started off in, right?
Right.
So their mother sent them to study psychology, and you know after 4 years the money got run out, right? Would you say, in to an extent, that you had a little bit more of a privilege because you were Canadian, that you
Def-
could dip and pick and choose at different things and then finally settle on what you did?
Definitely, of course. I was very privileged and fortunate to have that opportunity. Like, I was born in Canada, so I had access to like Canadian student loans and stuff. So that fell on my pocket rather than on my mother's at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So compared to like your average Caribbean student who doesn't have citizenship in another country, they have to go and just excel in that. That's what they got the scholarship to do. That's what their parents send them to do. You have to get it done. And so yeah, I was a bit more privileged in that sense, and so I can't deny that. But the difference I think was I didn't do state college in Dominica. I didn't
Okay.
have state college. It was like I finished St. Mary's Academy.
That is
That
AKA what we call A levels.
I didn't do A levels.
Right. So you
Yes.
did O levels, which is CSEC.
Yeah, CXC, right? That's what
Yes.
they call. That was
They
what
call
it
it
was
CSEC.
called. They changed it now.
So it's Caribbean Examination Council, but for secondary schools. So it's
Okay.
called CSEC, yes.
All right, so that's what I did, right? And then I didn't do state college for maybe 1 month, and I got in for sociology, funny enough. But then after that, I left and I went back to Canada, and I had to do a year of high school again, because
Mm-hmm.
in fifth form in the Caribbean is like grade 11 in Canada, right?
Yeah, they pull
So
you back.
no, not pull me back. In Canada, you finish high school at grade 12.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically just did that extra year and then got the credits from that, and then went to university, right?
Okay.
And then so. Uh, that was basically me a new introduction to like studying. That's when I really started to enjoy studying, right? That extra year of high school in Canada, because I got to actually pick and choose my subjects there. In SMA, it was just
Okay.
like, you're going to do science, study all the
That
sciences.
is the thing. Yo, I probably could share the same sentiments as you because I was told that I had to do sciences.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not a science student.
Mm,
I am so not a science student.
yeah.
I never liked math.
Mm,
And to do any, and mostly all science students, you need to have a level of love for math as
yeah.
well as a level of understanding for math. Only concern about is can I count my money? And that was
That's
about it.
basically right. Like, and the math was like physics, if you have no chemistry. My weak point was chemistry. That's my Achilles heel. I couldn't get past the mole, whatever the mole is. Like, whoever your chemistry is, what is a mole? I have no idea. Right? For 3 years, I couldn't figure it out. I had private tutors. I went to after classes, everything. I couldn't figure out the mole. So that is my extent, right, of sciences. And so, but I wanted to do business. But in the Caribbean, it's like, well, the impression at the time, I think, if that's the correct way to put it, was all the smart students had to do the science subjects, right? All of those who are going to excel, right? You had to do the science subjects. But I wanted to do the business, right? They're like, no, 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 do the science. That's where all the really bright people are. Go do science. I'm like, okay. I
That
guess
is
I'm a
so true.
physician now.
That
I'm
is
going
so
to
true.
learn about the black hole and how to launch sound of this propeller and this, and I don't know. It was a good time though. I enjoyed it. But in Canada, it's like when I got to pick and choose my subjects. I was like, I got lit up by international business, by geography, and not geography as in this is the equinox and this, but like the geography of like people and countries. Like, what is the population here? What is this type of political
So you got a
consequence of
second
this
chance.
here? I got a second chance, you know, like a second set. But the point I was initially trying to make is that I had like 1 year of that extra high school and then straight into university. And I think when people who do the state college, they have like 2 years to like grow up a little bit more, and then like it sticks in their mind like what they want to do, right?
True.
And then maybe they might even take an extra year after finishing state college work and then
Working into
go.
it, yes.
So in Europe, they have the gap year,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a gap year is they finish high school and then they take a year off to do whatever it is, to travel, to work, mostly travel, and then, you know, to figure out what they want to commit the next 4-5 years to, right? Whereas me, I just went through, dived in, and so that was the cause of all that back and forth trying to figure it out.
Okay. Now, how was life growing up in a very creative family? I mean, as I said before, I know your mother, and she can turn a leaf into a flower. She can turn a tree into, I don't know. She's just a really very, very creative woman. What was
Into a
life like?
beanstalk. Well, it was messy. It was messy because, you know, artists, their brains are all over the place, right? So like whenever my mother doing her stuff, if she had to bring it home, you're seeing flowers there, you're seeing cloth there, chairs there, like all sorts of pieces. You see all the pieces spread out until it comes together. So it tends to be very messy until the project is complete, right? And that was like when she would be decorating events, weddings and stuff. And that's like anything, you know, it always starts with all the like puzzle pieces just spread out, right? And then you get that piece, you put that there, oh, that goes well together, right? And that's a general idea. And then the big thing for me was music. And my father is the one who pushed me into music.
Okay.
Right. So before I actually did the music, like I started drawing. I like to draw, right? Sketching and drawing. That was my big thing at first. And then my father pushed me into music. And I was very reluctant at first. I'm like, I don't want to go to piano lessons. What am I going to piano lessons to do? I'm not going to be no classical musician. That was my thinking. And he was like, you don't have to go just to be a musician or to be in a band or
Is that
whatever.
how he said it to you in that
That's
exact
what-
tone?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like we were in the car. I remember the day, actually, funny enough. I remember the actual day and the conversation. I was like, I don't want to do that. He's like, you don't have to go just for you to be in a band or be a big shop musician. Just go. So if you at a party or something, there's a piano, you can do a little thing. Like you at least know how to do it, right? And my father himself, he's a musician, right? He, in his younger days, back in the day, he was in Liquid Ice. He was a guitarist for Liquid Ice, one of the earlier bands in Dominica. So he kind of, you know, wanted to pass that on to me, right? In hindsight, I figured that out, you know.
Okay.
And so I went to piano lessons, right? I did maybe 3 months of it, and long and behold, I made some friends down the street from me in Goodwill who were starting a band. So who knows how to play piano and know how to. I started fiddling in Fruity Loops at the time, so I started making beats and stuff. So now I know a little something to now join a band, and that was sort of the inception of how I got involved in music, right? That band went on to become Cross Vibes.
Yes, I remember Cross Vibes.
Right. So I started with them, and then I eventually went into sing first because I started rapping and making beats. So I was like, okay, cool. But then we got a guy who could actually sing. And then I was like,
so you can't sing, right?
I wasn't that sharp. My skills weren't on point at the time, right?
Okay.
Still young. I was maybe in fourth form.
Okay.
Fourth or fifth form at the time, right? And then I was like, okay, I'll play the keyboard. Then we got someone who was way more proficient than me on keyboard who actually knew. So I'm like, okay, what's left? We had a drummer, we have a bass man. I'll just take my father's guitar from under his bed. And then I just learned to play that.
Okay.
Right?
So how many instruments you know how to play now?
Piano and keyboard, piano and guitar mainly. And like I can fiddle with the bass because like very close to
similar to the guitar.
The guitar, yeah. But like mainly guitar. I have my guitar here, my keyboard here. That's like main things I play with.
Okay. Now, as a young boy, what did you want to be? So, you know, like a lot of us say, oh, I'm going to be a pilot. I'm going to be a lawyer.
I wanted to be an architect.
Be an architect?
I wanted to be an architect. And that's what I thought. Because I like to draw. That was just it. I like to draw. That was my that was my logic. I was like, oh, I like to draw. Architects draw like big plans. I'll become an architect. And I'm studying science. Oh, I'll become an architect. I didn't become an architect, right? I'm like furthest thing from it, you know? And then after that, when I started doing music, someone was like, Daniel, you want to be a musician, man? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. Right? It was just like, it wasn't in my mind. I'm like, okay, I'll become an architect. If all fails, I'll just be a lawyer. And that's sort of what drove me to end up with sociology and criminology on my degree.
Okay, because you were like, plan B.
Plan B, I'll be a lawyer.
Okay, we're getting some interactions from a few of our guests who are locked in. Cameron Valerie says, hey guys, big up on the show. So he is locked in. We also want to have Cynthia Gold is locked in. And also Denise Ogis is also locked in. I know she says she's missing me. I know. I miss you too, darling. I just want to remind those of you viewing, if you'd like to at any time during the show, you can ask your questions. And of course, Daniel will answer as much as he can during the show, on and off. So I will indicate, the questions, and he will go ahead and answer them. And continuing with the interview, I really want to know who inspires you?
Everybody. I look at everybody. I look at anybody who's doing something. So I looked at the people around me at university first, right? Let's say, or like say the people around me who are inspired by music. So I want to do music that interests me. The people around me in my schools who are like really passionate about studies and activism and about political opinion and social issues, that inspires me. Those are people who like go on and do well. Friends of mine who start businesses, right? The family members of mine who are very entrepreneurial, like I have a cousin, BrizFit. He has like his Instagram page and he's like straight up into fitness in Miami.
I follow him as well.
You see him? Yeah.
Him and his sister.
Right, he and his sister, right? And we were all on the swimming team together, right?
Yo, she's like a boss. Like I always comment on her on her thing. I always like goals. Goals.
I'm telling you, goals. Man, also like all of my other friends who like I have a lot of friends who I grew up with who are all like blooming and they're all like becoming things. Like big up to my friend Sahai. She just became a doctor, PhD. Right?
Yeah, right? I know Sahai very well. Right. She's very close with Jael.
Great, yeah. Just like the people around me, what inspires me, just like art, like music inspired me a lot. Just looking at, because I was so into music, man. Like I studied music heavily, like hip hop especially. So I look at guys like Dr. Dre, right? Especially biggest musical influence, and the way he took his music straight and like he turned himself into like a business mogul. Right. And so just like looking at the steps, just paying attention to the steps and like the way he moves, it's like things that like I took from like, just like looking and reading and just like seeing who's doing what.
So you're the type of person, you just sit back and you observe people and you see what's working, what was working for them. And you say, probably I could try that. Probably I could do that.
Yes, basically. And then books, lots of books. Like I actually read more than I think people would know. Like I have like a suitcase of books that I left behind in Canada that I let my uncle hold on to me. I have another big shelf of books here that I just like gather, And so like big fan of people like Paulo Coelho, fan of like I like to read Stephen King books. I like to read all sorts of other crime novels. I just read Chasing the Scream by, what was his name? So he was an Amnesty International like journalist. Chasing the Scream. It was a thing about the war on drugs and addiction. Okay. And that was a very insightful book, right? Because from the Caribbean and like my environment, the big topic was marijuana legalizing, at least decriminalizing it. So like I was very interested in that, and it was very part of music. Right now I'm reading into this guy called Jordan Peterson. He's like this clinical psychologist from Toronto. He's a professor at U of T. And so like he has like a lot of interesting things about the individual, like how the individual can find meaning in life, right? And how the best way to be like a decent person. Like the name of his book is 12 Rules for Life,
Okay.
right? And it's not like I've read a few self-help books before, but like that one is like very directed at an individual and like takes very small steps. It prescribes very small doable things that anybody can adapt to find meaning and success in their life.
Do you like hardcover books, or do you have Kindle, or you just download something? You like
Hardcover.
You're old school.
Hardcover, yeah. I need to like have it physically in my book, in my hand, in my hand.
I am so like put it on a screen for me and I'll flip through it.
Yeah.
I am.
When I had my iPad, I would just like have it on my iPad and like scroll through it, but like that takes a toll on my eyes. I just like the hardcover. I'd be like an old man with my spectacles, with my big book, like doing the same
Really,
thing. That would be
really.
me.
I have an issue with like paper. Paper and we have like
Paper. I like paper,
serious
man.
beef. Yeah, like I had to do something recently where they asked me to write on paper, and I was like scrambling down the entire house looking for paper. I'm like, I couldn't find paper anywhere because I'm like,
look, I can reach for paper right now. I have paper right here everywhere. I like paper.
I am not a fan of paper. Like anytime I sign up for anything and they say, "Do you want to go paperless?" I'm like, yeah, I want to go paperless.
Sure.
I am
It's
like
less to carry. It's lighter. It's lighter. Just no
my
paper. It's lighter.
if my entire life could be paperless, I would
Mm-hmm.
probably do that. But there's certain things that you have no choice but to have paper. So I
Just not
probably
everyone's going to have bad handwriting. No one will know how to handwrite things.
I know, because everybody absolutely just loves to put everything on a tablet or on a computer or on their phone, their notes on their phone. Now, Daniel, I want to know. I want to talk a little bit about your life today, or who Daniel is today, where you are now in life, and how did you decide to just get up one morning, pack your bags, your suitcase, your briefcase, and head to South Korea? And why South Korea specifically?
All right. Do you want like the real raw answer, or do you want
The raw
like
answer.
nice?
I want the raw answer. I do not want the finished answer.
Okay. Finish on my college project management. I was working 2 jobs. I wasn't feeling it. I was trying to work on the music. I wasn't inspired. I was just itching. I was just itching for something, right? Whether it's like more money, more experience, it's just more, right? It was like, I was just in Toronto. You know, in Toronto, it's just a hustle. When you live in Toronto, you hustle. If you're not hustling,
or jobs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you work you have like 2 full-time jobs and a couple side hustles. That's Toronto, right? That's literally Toronto.
Yeah, you got to keep up.
You have to keep up. And I think I was tired. I was getting exhausted, right? In Canada. And I was trying to do music, and then like there was a bunch of projects I was trying to fund. I was trying to fund quite a couple projects to like do it right. Because at that point I had put out some music, but I wanted the quality to be better. Right? How do I need to make the quality better? I needed to invest more. So the way teaching abroad came about was actually 2 years before I went. I had just graduated, and I was giving my mom a tour of my university. She came for the graduation, and we were touring, and we saw a flyer on the wall. It was like, T-Salt, get certified to teach abroad, earn money, pay off your loans, do this and that. Remember those loans we talked about?
Yep.
So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So like immediately after I graduated, I got certified within a week, right? And so I was like, all right, push come to shove, I'm going to go abroad. And then during that orientation, they were like, people go to Japan, they go to China, they go to Korea. For first timers, Korea is always the best bet because you get the best deals, right?
When you say the best deals, what do you mean?
Best salaries, best overall benefits package, and all of that, right? It was just the best in Korea. You make a lot more profit going to Korea, right? Okay. For the first time. Japan, you would need more experience. China, I wasn't ready to go to China yet, right? I was like, I want to go to Japan, but most people go to Korea, best deals. So that's how I got the idea, but I wasn't ready to do that yet because I was still in Toronto. I was going to Toronto, going back to Toronto from Ottawa, and then I was like grinding. I was going back to school and doing this and that. Then it got to that point. I was like, you know what? I'm going to Korea. That's it. I'm going to Korea. I was just like tired. I wanted to go and do something. I needed some cash. I needed to travel. That was really just the root of it. I just wanted to get out. So I was like, all right, send out my resume. Did a couple of Skype interviews. Bam, just like that, I went to Korea. They sent me all the information. I got a visa. I'm like, okay, this is real. I'm going. I'm like,
how did your mom feel about that?
I don't think she liked it. I think she is frightened, right? Like, so, because it's like I had never been so far away. I don't think she had been so far away from me, right? Before it was just like a 5-hour flight, right? From Toronto to like Barbados and then Dominica. But now here I am going to the other side of the world, literally, right? So it was just a brand new experience, right? Like the shock of it, I think. And then, but nonetheless supportive. Nonetheless, she was very supportive, right? I had went back to Dominica before going to Korea. So it was like Canada, Dominica, one last run.
Bye-bye. Don't
Right,
cry,
yeah.
I'm going.
You know, it was like, well, I think that was me saying bye to Dominica in a way, because I'm like, I don't know when next I will see you, but what's up? I'm heading out, right? And then I just went to Korea, right? On the flight there, I was just like, boy, what am I doing? I'm probably gonna get scammed. They're gonna kidnap me. Something gonna happen. Like that was. I get to the airport. The person who was supposed to meet me wasn't there.
Oh my God!
I'm like, okay, I don't know. Brand new language, everything. I knew nothing about Korea. I knew nothing. All I knew was Gangnam Style and Kim Jong-un. That was all I knew. That was all. I knew nothing about Korea. I downloaded all these things. I'm like, I'm going to learn the language on the plane. I just slept and watched movies. And then I got there. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. All right. And then the person wasn't there. It was like maybe half an hour still. I'm like, oh boy. So I scrambled, got some Wi-Fi. I Skyped with my recruiter, right, who was online. Amen. Got in touch with the person who picked me up, and then they got me. And I was just like, all right, cool. All right, everything's normal again.
How long it took you to learn the language?
About, it was always like off and on. Like I'd been there about 2 years to like be comfortable using it in like conversation. So like now it's been 3 years, and so like I'm fairly proficient. So I left my last job, and now I'm at a new job where they speak zero English. Basically, there's zero English at my new job, whereas before everybody spoke English.
Okay.
So that transition wasn't so difficult for working because everyone was proficient in English. I worked with like maybe 25 other foreign teachers from like England, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, USA, Canada, right? And now I'm the only foreigner where I work now.
Oh, wow.
And so my co-teacher, his English is good, but it's not like at the same standard as it was at my last job, right? So I use a lot more Korean where I am. So even my other teachers, they're not English teachers. They don't speak English. They teach other things.
Okay.
When I see them around, it's just like, 안녕하세요, 반가워요, 어떻게, you know, like just like.
What does that mean?
It means how. Oh, like hello, nice to meet you. How have you been? You know, like that sort of thing. You know.
What was your biggest challenge moving to Korea?
What was the biggest challenge? That's a tough one because I had moved so many times. Like moving to another country, or like I looked at it as just another city, right? Because I went from like Dominica to Hamilton, Ontario, to Ottawa, back to Toronto, to Korea. So,
but it's not really like there's no. I don't consider it too much of a culture shock moving from between Dominica and North America. I mean, besides the fact that everybody yanks, and then there are trains, and everybody drives on the other side of the road, and the buses are on time, and bus drivers don't yell at you. Besides that,
the culture shock. I remember trying to cross the street one time on a green, and then a bus was still zooming by. Like you just ran the red light, and I learned that was a common thing. Right?
Wow.
That's just a common thing.
So red light means go.
Red light, yeah, red light. If you're crossing, you look both ways anyway, and then you still run just in case a bus is coming. So buses have right of way all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Buses have right of way all the time on any lane. It doesn't matter, right? That's one thing here. Culture shock, man. The food was alright. The people, I think just like relating with the people, right? But that was the thing. Like the job I went to was very Western. It was a very like they were. I learned a lot about Korea. I learned about it in increments. Okay,
Okay.
because I got fortunate again, right? This is an empire. I was fortunate. It was in increments because there were so many foreigners in the company that I had worked for that all the Koreans were very familiar, and so like a lot of things were adjusted. But if anything was mostly different, it was the language, and it was how closely tied the language was to the culture. Okay, that's when I really started to realize, like, wow, language and culture are very, very closely interlinked, right? So in Korea, the language, it's like when you speak, you're either rude or you're polite.
Oh, really?
There's no in between. Like it's very like it's very difficult to get the distinction. So if you're a person older than me, I need to make sure I speak in that caliber. So like in Spanish and French, like this, like or at least in Spanish, there's like that higher level of like the formal language and then the casual language.
Yes, yes. There's just rude and polite.
It's right. It's just rude and polite, right? So if you're an older person and I speak to you in like the pamal, that's like the casual language, and I speak to you and you're older than me, then that's me being rude to you. Like, who am I to speak down on you, right? And also, really, man, like hierarchy and age are like a big thing that play a role in Korean culture. So in the workplace, if you are older than me and you are in a higher rank than me on the corporate ladder, I need to make sure I pay my respects to you all the time, right?
And
In
what
the
does that entail?
workplace.
Paying respects. How do you pay respects? Because back home is Mr. this, Mrs. this, Ma this. In Canada it's your name. How do you pay respect to an elderly or somebody a superior in Korea?
You have to first, like, if you're speaking in Korean, you have to make sure you use that proper language. So, quick lesson.
So the polite language.
The polite language, right? So to a kid, I would say hello, annyeong. That's a kid. To an older person, I say annyeonghaseubnika. So it's like much longer and much more detailed. Yeah. So that's just one thing. I won't go into the detail, but you have to use that, right? If I'm speaking like directly to a Korean person, so like to my boss or my head teacher, luckily they spoke English, right? For me to learn that. So I'd just be like, hey, how are you doing? But it would come out in the interaction. So if I had like a really cool idea for this program I just became responsible for, but my superior, right? My superior has been there longer, he's older than me. I have a great idea. I cannot take I got in trouble once for taking initiative and creating something new. It was not implemented. I just had an idea and I wanted to work on it to just present it to my superiors, right? And he got mad, right? I remember he got upset with me at the time because I didn't get permission to do it, right? It was so I
he
learned
has
that
to vet the idea before you put down the proposal to present it.
it had to seem like it came from him, that he had a very significant role to play in it, because at the end of the day, if it was implemented, right, and something went wrong, he was the one responsible, right? He would get the first wave of backlash. So he had to make sure that he could sign off on it, right? And even if it didn't get the go ahead, it was just like, I'm like, well, if it doesn't go, I'll just keep it. But because I was doing something on company time, I thought it was on company time, especially, or even part of company time. It was weird. It's like I had to get. It felt that I needed permission to work, even on my own time, right?
Wow.
If it had to go into the program at all, it had to have gone. We needed to like go for him first.
Okay.
So I think that was just like a different cultural business etiquette. Right?
Fast tracking a little bit. Traveling. You are known for your blogs, especially you're on www.danielfadelle.com, which I've gone to a few times. So if you see any Canadian hits, it's from me. So you are known for, blogging about your traveling experience. Tell us about some of the places you've actually visited and how they differ from each other. Because a lot of times, people say, you North America, all of North America is the same. You in South America,
Mm-hmm.
all of South America is the same. You go to
Mm-hmm.
Asia, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Except that the people might look different, but it's the same. Um, how how are your experiences different? Tell us a little bit about
So I've been to quite a few countries around Asia, right?
that.
So, like Thailand. My first trip was to the Philippines, right? From Korea, I went to the Philippines, and then I went there as a tourist. Straight up, I went to like this tourist island called Boracay, and I noticed their tourism was just dialed in, right? They had everything well planned out from like bus routes to schedules to this and that. And then there was also Thailand, which also had their culture very dialed in. But the thing was, like, I've been to places also like Malaysia, been to Japan, China. What was that other place? Indonesia. I didn't go in like tourist packages. I went as just like an individual, just going to this country and figuring it out,
Okay.
right? I didn't sign up for any bus tours or like group tours or like this and that. I signed up for activities like, oh, I want to go scuba diving here. I'm going to book the time to go scuba diving here. Um, they are going to go jet skiing. Oh, yeah, I meet this guy. So the way it was is like you could do everything. You could just book your flight, go there and figure it out. You could
Mm-hmm.
just go there. You don't need a hotel booked. I advise you should have a hotel booked, right? But it's a thing that like you can go shopping when you're there,
Okay.
right? Like I could get off the plane, find a taxi, get to an area that I wanted to go to. All of the research was done before, and it was just very free for all,
Now
right?
you as you said, getting the taxi back. You are
Mm.
fluent in Korean, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What do they call Korean language?
Oh, Hangul, Hangul,
Hangul.
Hangul,
So
or just you can call it Korean. Hangul
you're
is the Korean word for Korean.
so, so you're fluent in Korean.
I'm
Now,
not fluent.
or at least
Okay.
you're
Yeah,
proficient
yeah,
in it.
yeah, yeah.
Going to all these different countries, and as you said, you didn't even book into a tour, because usually when you book into a tour, there might be an English speaking person on that tour to say,
Mm.
well, this is where it is, even if they might have a little bit of an accent or whatever it is, but you can understand. Taxi, how was it like getting a taxi and you do not know the language people in Malaysia speak, or people in China? You can't speak Chinese,
Oh well, that's just all.
Japanese.
That's well, I went. That's all preparation. Number one, I'm assuming everyone that speaks English, right? And most of the time they do, right?
They know a little bit.
They know at least a little bit. Be like, take me here, go this left, right. Like Southeast Asia especially. They know they know some English. They know English. Like Philippines, they know English. Thailand, they know English.
Okay.
Um, but if I went to like China, right, or Japan, I just wherever I'm going, I have the picture on my phone. Like, take me here. Literally, that would be it. All right, here. Like body
That's your
language,
map.
body language, and images.
Really?
So I'm very good now at talking to people who don't understand what I'm saying.
Mm.
Right? You don't know the words that are coming out of my mouth, but I can still get the communication across. Like I want to
Okay.
go here. Like say if while I'm there and I jump into a taxi who has no English whatsoever, wherever it is, I would just be like, yo, music, boom, 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 party, party. Right? And like I can say, I'll be like, oh, food, no, no, no. Like you just like, there's universal body language. Yeah, there's universal body language signals, that everyone just knows. You can figure it out.
And you
You know,
definitely utilize that, or you made that your next best friend.
that's my third language, right?
Okay. Now, out of all the places you visited, where was your favorite? Your absolute favorite?
Croatia.
Why?
Croatia. Because I had such a good time there. Like it was like I've been to so many good places, but I have like some really good memories in Croatia. So that's in Europe, Eastern Europe, and that's where they filmed Game of Thrones.
So
right?
you're a fan of Game of Thrones, I
I'm a
assume.
massive fan of Game of Thrones,
Oh my
right? Massive
God,
fan.
you're my best friend.
Massive fan. High five, man. You check,
Yay!
massive fan, right? And so that the area of Croatia, I was in Dubrovnik, right?
Okay.
Dubrovnik is King's Landing, right? So
Mm.
imagine that old rustic um castle city look, right? You go, all the roofs are like orange, red, the streets are all like stone marble, like so it was very old school. That was maybe one of the most different places I'd been to. So
Is
when
it
I went to
expensive there?
it's becoming more expensive because a lot more tourists are going there now, a lot more visitors
Because of Game of Thrones.
because of Game of Thrones, right? Eastern Europe is fairly affordable. It's very, it's not as expensive as going to England or Spain. Like it's fairly affordable, right? When I would go to Indonesia or like Thailand or even like the Philippines, it reminded me a lot of the Caribbean, right? Same tropical vibe, right? Just the people who might look a little bit different, or they look like Caribs and Arawaks too, same way, right? But like the environment is the same. But when I was in Croatia, that felt different. That was maybe the most different feel. You go to England, all right, this is England. Like I know what England looks like, right? I have a strong idea. I go to France, yeah, this is France. I imagine this is what it would be like. It's not as like when I went to Eastern Europe, like Croatia, Dubrovnik, that city particularly was like it stood out to me the most, right? Of all the places I'd been to, it stood out to me. It was the most new, right? And then there
How
was
were the
still
people like?
people were super friendly. I stayed in this hostel, right? It was a hostel, not like any other. It was like
You said hostel, and I heard brothel. I don't know why.
hostel,
I don't know
hostel.
why. I know you said. I'm like, look at you. Your mother is listening.
I mean, hostel. Those words are too alike. I never realized that. I stayed at this hostel, and it was like this older couple, a retired couple. They had like a big house. It had maybe 3 floors and a bunch of bedrooms, right? It was like maybe just like a typical suburban house, right? And they just transformed it into a hostel. So in the downstairs, there's like a giant picnic table, a separate kitchen with like a TV room and stuff like that. There was like all the separate rooms, and it was like a bunch of other people like me who just passing through, either staying for a couple of days or a week, and they just need a place to crash. So it was also very social. So here I am. I'm meeting these
Other travelers like yourself.
other travelers like myself. There's this dude from Chile who rented a motorcycle in Italy and was like driving it all around Europe. And then he
Wow.
stopped to take a boat to bring it back to Italy. There was this this engineer from New Zealand just passing through, this Australian lawyer who lives in England who just takes weekend trips and stuff like that. And like it was just like a really mesh of people, other people on their gap years, other teachers also who just like taking a Euro trip. I was there on a Euro trip. So it was like that's where I really got like a really wide, that was where I met the most different diverse sets of people. And like we're all there at a picnic table, we're barbecuing, we're sharing stories, and and that was very fun. We all go into the beach, we're like walking around, like, where's the beach? Where's the beach? And then we walking around getting lost in Old Town. Old Town is like the filming area.
Okay.
And we're looking, you remember that scene when they're like, shame, 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 like going down.
When she was naked going down.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So we went and we spent maybe an hour looking for that exact location to reenact it. Right. So like my boy, he took his shirt off. We had a bell, and then like we got to the top, and then it was just like shame, just like yelling it in the street. Like everyone like cleared the walkway. Everybody cleared the walkway and like started filming and taking pictures and stuff. It was a spectacle. It was a spectacle.
It sounds like fun.
It sounded like fun. Later to find out it was illegal. We shouldn't have taken our shirts off. Like you have to keep your clothes on. That's one of the laws there. We didn't get charged. Luckily, we later saw the sign. We're like, whoop, that would have been like 100, 200 euros.
Wow. So
We got away with that.
There's strict laws.
That's strict law. Yeah, because it's still like a very preserved. It's one of the, I think it's a UNESCO site. That city is a UNESCO site, so it's also very traditional. So they still want to preserve the conserve the traditional look of it. They don't want people walking around naked and stuff like that. There, it's still a very conservative, traditional area. Very modest. Yeah, they want to keep it modest.
Listening to you, I'm reliving my earlier years when I lived with 4 flight attendants. So I used to use their their body privileges and
Yeah,
go
of course.
everywhere.
Oh,
So I would go,
lucky, one of
I
the
go
lucky
places
ones.
for 48 hours, like go to Japan and stamp your passport, stay there for like 48 hours, 17 hours and come back. And like people ask me, where did you go to? I'm like, we just walked around because we couldn't go many places because she had to go to sleep because she had to catch the
Mm,
next flight. And it was just
I
very
guess
short visits. We got stuck in Cancun once during a hurricane. So I've had
that's
a bit of the traveling experience, which I listening to you, I kind of sort of miss. As a matter of fact, last year I started saying to my partner, I am moving to Europe, and I downloaded Duolingo and I started learning German because
okay.
I was going to
Guten
Germany
Tag.
or
Guten Tag. Yeah.
or Luxembourg. These were,
Or
where
Luxembourg.
where they filmed King Arthur.
Okay, the one with
I
what's
wanted
his
to go
name?
exactly there.
The new King Arthur movie.
The new King Arthur movie. That's where I wanted to go.
That yeah, because that looks rustic area too,
No,
right?
but it's so small and everybody knows each other. Although I was not
You like
from
that type
the
of
Caribbean,
environment? It's
I
like
wasn't
Dominican.
crazy about it, but I just like the fact that all of the walls look so ancient
Mm,
and everything,
mm.
and it would be so easy for me to get a job there. I was like,
Would it? Yeah, it'd
yeah,
be easy to
it's
just.
super super easy. Like if you actually search jobs in Luxembourg,
Uh,
you you find like they have like a wide selection of jobs
mm,
available and stuff, so of vacancies of all types. So
okay,
yeah, so you just listening to you, I'm kind of sort of jealous.
do it, do it,
I'm
do
kind
it. Don't be
of
jealous. Just do
I'm
it,
I'm I'm
do
still
it.
I'm still learning my German to go to
You
Germany.
learn it faster when you go there. You
I
learn
know
it
it.
faster when you go there.
I know
That's
somebody
the
said just
fastest.
go and you will just and get it over with. So your favorite place absolutely was Croatia of all the 20 million countries.
20, not that many countries. Yeah, I like Croatia. That's the one that stood out to me the most, because yeah, like I went there and it was a good time. I not that I didn't enjoy anywhere else, but that one stood out to me, I think, the most, right? Of like all my trips. That's the one I still like remember the
Where
most.
you
Like
want to go to next?
Russia, Africa
Why
actually.
Russia? Why
Russia,
Russia?
Russia, because I've made a lot of connections there, and like I've had a lot of students, and then like a lot of the parents and like the what they call them, the chaperones and coordinators and stuff I met through my work, like they're all
Mhm.
there. And apparently, I'm not sure how true it is, you need an invitation to go to Russia to like have your visa to be there, right? And then you have to keep
And
like
you're not scared, even with all of what's going on with
no,
Russia and
no,
Britain and
no. I,
US and Russians left, right, and center from everywhere.
I live,
Russians.
I live in South Korea, next to North
Mhm.
Korea. I went through like maybe next
I know.
last 2 years when Donald Trump became the president. Everyone's like, Daniel, get out, get out, get out. I'm like, why? There's like everyone in America is more scared for me than I was, right? Like there's no reason. And now look at that now, with all the panic from 2017 alone, all the panic from the news and the media about Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump, two crazy dudes. Rah. Kim Jong-un's chilling out now. Like he's in China. He and Trump are going to meet in Europe, and like it's the whole situation is like de-escalated. It's like people panic too much. Media
Stirs the
brain
pot
stirs
the
the
way they
pot and
want
makes everyone
to
frightened.
go.
Yeah, I went to Istanbul in 2016, maybe a month after they had some bombings. And like,
Really?
yeah. And then when I went, it was like,
Am I
there was
in
actually a
the
warning. There was like, be wary of visiting these places as there were terrorist attacks. I'm just like, yeah, that's all right, man. Like the terrorists happen, just happen. That won't happen. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. You know,
I love it.
I emailed the Canadian embassy and everything. I told my mother everything
You're
because
like,
like they,
just in case.
it was the cheapest way into Europe from Korea through Istanbul. It was literally the cheapest way. So I was like, I'm not going to make the terrorist win. I'm not going to cancel my trip or lose money because that's how they win, right? Fair, right? When you don't go somewhere because of terror or because you're frightened or something, that's how you make them win. That was
Yeah.
my
And you're so right. Like the media, especially like this place, Beirut. This place, the media has made Beirut look
Beirut.
Beirut
In
look like
Lebanon?
yes, like it's the one of the worst cities on the planet. But I see people like P. Diddy partying up in Beirut, and I'm like, I want to go
Beirut,
to Beirut.
Beirut is party central of the Middle East. It's party
Like
central of the Middle
they
East.
had a Red Bull competition there like recently, and I was like,
It's
damn.
popping. It's popping. That's why I say do your own travel and don't listen to the media. Right? Don't listen to what people tell you about Africa. That's why I want to go to Africa next. Right? I want to go to Kenya. I want to go to Ethiopia. I want to go to Tanzania. I want to check out South Africa. I want to go to Ghana,
Just so
especially
you
Ghana.
know, I fit in suitcases after I lose a few pounds
You
here and
fit into
there. I just
extra one piece of luggage. Check that one in.
check
You
that,
know,
check me into your, in the luggage, right? Now we are sometimes scared to come out of our comfort zone. I mean, look at you. You're traveling all over the place, plus doing something that you absolutely love to do. What sort of advice would you give an individual who is terrified to explore because they're probably scared of again terrorist attack, or they're probably scared of catching malaria, or they're probably scared of being kidnapped, or they have all these different fears? What would you say to somebody who is terrified and to get them out to explore?
Take small steps. Do like a smaller trip somewhere, something you're easily familiar with, and do it by yourself. Right? If it's still too much, bring somebody with you and do something that's very different. Like if you are in Canada, or maybe go to, I don't know, take a quick trip to something familiar first, right? Do like small trips. Go to another city. Just go to another city, right? If you want to really explore somewhere, just do it. Just take a risk and do it. Like just do it. Honestly, like that's the only advice I could really think, because that's what I did. Like, just do it.
That's another saying. Yes, Africa is so underrated because of propaganda spread by the media, and
It's
he's
true.
also adding that we should so visit
True.
the motherland,
It's true.
Africa.
It's true.
There's no real what is it called? Wakanda.
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 Everyone.
I
Wakanda is real. What you talking about? What you talking about? Wakanda is real.
Okay then. I know.
No, honestly, yeah. I was telling you, man, like that's why I want to go to Africa really badly, because there's a few people that I follow, right, on the gram and social media and other like news outlets, and I have a lot of my best friends in Toronto. They're all from Africa, right? They're from Ghana, Nigeria.
Tomorrow we got an African coming on.
Ivory Coast. Yeah, man. I hope those dudes. I send them the link. I have like a group chat. All my best friends, like they're mostly from Africa, right? And we always talk about Africa, man, and like issues with Africans in Canada and the US and like rest of the world, and it's like common things to talk about, And so I have a lot of friends who like frequent there often, so I see what Africa really looks like. I stop if I see on the news CNN or any. No, I'm swipe that. Any news outlet talking about Africa in any sense, they like to show you the warlord stuff, they like to show you the poverty stuff, the Amnesty International stuff. You have that everywhere.
Even in the US of A.
All about the US, man. All around the US. A friend of mine said he went to Hollywood to like the star boardwalk, the boardwalk for all the stars, and he said there's so many homeless people, there's so much poverty in that area. Right?
It's all over the place. It's all over the place. World. And I think they're just trying to make you. The media sometimes makes you want to see what they want you to see,
of course,
and not really what is there, And I guess it's what you call the best news is bad news, right?
Best news is bad news. Yeah, because bad news spreads faster than the good news, right? It doesn't get as many clicks, but then agendas is like whoever's behind doors, I guess. Like my perception has recently been that while in the West, they generally want you to see Africa as a charity case, but China has seen it differently. China, silent owners of the world, by the way. China is looking at Africa as investment opportunity right now, right?
It is the motherland.
It's the motherland. There's so many resources, so much stuff going on over there right now. Ghana's economy is popping right now, right? And so it's just like also on top of if you just want a place to visit and see, like with all the talk now about like black power and privilege and like slavery, this and that, like no, I think people have a lot more access to go and visit,
Yes,
right? You
yes.
have access to find out where your roots
But
are.
Daniel, I love the way that Africa sort of let people know that, hey, we're there and we started this bitch and we're
And they've
gonna
been saying that. They've
no,
been
you know
saying
how
that.
they started it? Through their clothes. They started like putting
Putting
out
out
those
there.
outfits and everybody was wearing the like African wear and thing.
Um,
And then everybody started doing them African dances.
The
And
dances,
now
you can't test Africans in the dance. No.
dude, let me
I want to see someone from like Ghana go up with someone from Jamaica in like a dance off. I want to see that happen. I want to see a video. If you have a link to that, somebody send me. I want to
send it
see
to
it.
you.
Send it to me, please. Pop it in the link below. No man, like plus the music. That's why I said the music is pop. I was playing soca for my friend Nana, right? He's from Ghana, and I was playing Kess. Hello, 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 and he was like, "Yo, this is from the Caribbean." I'm like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "Man, this is just like Africa." I'm just like, "Yeah, we're the same people, man. Like it's the same vibe. It's the same vibe." I'm DJing at a couple events this month and next month, like April and May, and like all of my the track lists, playlists, and stuff, like everything in the bank is like Afro pop, soca, reggae, like all of it just meshes together as the same, and like you get a bigger audience. You know, it just shows how closely related the Caribbean is, and like Black America as a whole, Canada and US is to Africa. But you know, ancestry. You would have seen Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther himself, T'Challa. He was talking and he actually let people know on a wide scale that there's that ancestry. You can find out your heritage, like what's your background. You're like
A
12.
lot of people are black in them.
A lot of people are black, but there's another one. You can do African ancestry. So if you're from Africa, you know that you're a black person, you know you're from Africa. You can find out where exactly. You can pinpoint the tribe. So if you want,
There's one. It's called. I know what it.
not
Not
African ancestry or something like that.
DNA something.
There's
I
ways to
know.
find that out.
Because you see, you like books. I like YouTube. So
I'm all over YouTube
like,
too, and all over
on and on and on and on, like from one YouTube page to the next, and I see something and I connect and I go. And I was actually looking at this video from this actually she's from Toronto, African girl who had more white in her than her partner who is white. And I was like, like if you saw her, she could not believe that, she had so much of a big percentage of her
very European,
very European, all over different parts and stuff. So if you want to know, if you have a little bit of African in you, you could probably check them out. Now you've done so many different things. So you're a teacher, you're a musician, you travel, you paint, because I see your little paintings in the back.
Yeah,
in back there.
Lean that up a little bit, yeah.
Yes, look at the paintings and them and them.
Quick plug.
Yes, and you painted. What don't you do, and what's next for you?
I am working on getting higher education, furthering my education some more.
Okay.
I'm working on starting up some businesses, like some small businesses, like so my music before used to be Island Storm. So I have this new wear of Island Storm, and I wanted it to be a representative of the resilience of the Caribbean islands that were affected by the hurricanes. Hence, like the name of the business before was called Island Storm Productions. That was how I did my music. So I always had like the hurricane themes, and so I was just like, oh wow, we have hurricane. And so I wanted to like build that to like take that for people who going into fitness or just going traveling and stuff. And so the information on that will be up soon, right? So it's just like clothes and stuff it has the Island Storm logo. You buy it just representative of the resilience of the Caribbean nations. You can wear it traveling, going to the beach, as I said. That's like one business. Travel some more, work in the education field. I'm very interested in like government and like policy in terms of education, but I might do a lot more teaching, like it's hard to see because like I have such a broad image. I don't know how much I want to give away right now because it's like remember what I said earlier, it's like all the pieces are there and I'm like piecing them together. I like the idea. Okay, so I'm very much into thinking, right? So I'll be looking into a lot more either international relations or further in sociology, especially of cultures and globalization. So a big thing I think like people are struggling with now in our societies is like a thing of tribalism, right?
Okay.
I think tribalism is like one of the roots to a lot of the problems that we are seeing, like especially like racially or culturally. That's what it's a lot of tribalism.
I was not gonna go there.
We don't go there. Okay, we don't have to go there.
But you brought me there.
We don't have to go there.
You just brought me there.
Oh no. So before we go there, it's like the main reason like I travel and I blog is like I want people to see the rest of the world, right? Get out of that one little bubble. Like that one city that you live in is not the whole world. It's not the one way that the world operates. There are thousands of different ways you can live your life, right? True. Thousands of different ways societies can operate, and can influence you as an individual, right? So I want to reach out to individuals for them to improve themselves, or at least to improve their thinking, right? To at least open up their type of thinking so they can like look at a place like Korea and be like, oh yeah, this isn't really that dangerous of a place. You can go to Beirut. Oh, that place isn't that dangerous. That's kind of cool. So like when they meet like a Lebanese person in their everyday life, it's not so foreign. It's not so like, whoa, you're so different from me.
Like, oh my God.
I'm scared of you. Or like, oh wait, boy, stay away from those Russians. Or like, be careful. Like it's more like
kill you.
I think I was telling you is like when I was running a camp, right, in Korea. It was like a summer camp. It ran for about 3 months where we were bringing Russian students to Korea to learn English and like do field trips. And it was just like a summer camp for 3 months, right? We had various groups. They came in for 3 weeks at a time, and that stretched for 3 months. And so I was in charge of running that program. So I was making the curriculum. I was doing all the relation stuff, like taking care of the students, corresponding with all the chaperones and the educators and, this and that. Mm-hmm. And I remember this girl, Russian girl, she was studying in Korea. She was dropping her younger brother off at the school, and she was with the Korean coordinator, right? And so he was escorting him to meet me so I could like orient him. And so they were like, yeah, the Russian camp coordinator, yeah, he'll come there. So in her mind, I guess she started imagining like a Russian person, like a tall guy named Maxim with like blue eyes and blonde, that's what she's meeting. And then she meets me. I'm like, hey, surprise, right? And she's like, him? He's the coordinator. I'm like, yep, that's me. What's up? Privyet. Nice to meet you, right? And so she was like just shocked that like I was like a tan, brown-skinned dude, not Korean, not Russian. I'm running a Russian program, and I'm like communicating with all the Russian kids, like she was a bit taken aback by that, And then I met her brother. He's like taller than me. I was just like, oh, this kid's
Vladimir.
Like, his name was Maxim, actually. I
just wanted to say Vlad.
Vladimir. I know a couple of Vladimirs. I know a few Vladimirs.
Joven and I said, if we have another kid, we're gonna name the middle name is gonna be, because my both boys.
That's a powerful name.
Are V's, right? So we're like, the middle name is gonna be Vladimir.
Vladimir. It's a powerful name, man. You hear that, you be like, okay, all right, Vladimir, I see you, Vlad.
Vlad.
Vlad for short. I was intimidated by him a little bit, admittedly. I was just like, all right, I can't mess around because the Russian boys, men, they have strong spirits. Let me tell you, their spirits strong. Like they are not afraid to like just approach you and be like,
I have a friend up here. His name is Dimitri. And let me tell you, he is just like, I remember him as is when he met me, he just was in my face.
Yeah.
Like, you're a cute black chick and I want to get to know you. And I'm just like, dude, like, what line did you fall off? And that was like way back, like my days, like my earlier days.
Be glad he was flirting. If you when they start to tease you, it's all.
But it's not even like it doesn't even feel like a flirt. You feel so intimidated. It's like
the presence. It's just
like,
powerful.
can I
They have
get
a
you?
presence about them.
I'm
They
just
have a
like,
presence about them.
okay.
Great. Yeah, I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but then like my friend Irina, she was the mother of two of the students. Well, mother of one of the students, and like she brought a bunch of the kids with her.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to him like, man, these boys, man, like I need to make sure I bring it with them. You can't be soft around them. You can't be soft, right? You have to be just as hard as them, right? Or they won't respect you. Right? So here I'm like a super friendly person, but like when I was with them, I had to be like harder than they were, right? Wow. And not in a hard as in an angry, like move, like it was just like, yeah, move from there. Like you have to be the alpha.
Yes.
They're all alphas,
such
right?
presence.
Right? They have that alpha presence about them. And once you prove to them you're an alpha, they're like, all right, cool. Okay, good. Show. Very
Trevor
good.
Noah was saying. Trevor Noah had like he's doing like different places he's been to on one of his comedy acts, and he was saying that when he went to Russia, when they would speak to you, it's like you just have to move, like get out of the way.
Do this. like what is they have a word for it? It's like davai. It's like hurry up, get out of the way. Davai.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just in the language, especially like it's like when you hear them speak, it's just like, whoa, you have to be attentive,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's Russia. But when you get to them, man, they're like super cool, man. Like they're just like I remember having a lot of good times with like the older boys, especially like it was like we would just be playing basketball or we're playing soccer, and it's just like it's just like strong spirits, it was always good vibes, and like I developed like good friendships with them, and especially like
it's not people's perception now of Russia is that, or at least I should say the media has given off perception that there's so much going on, all these different people are just jumping off like they're saying you're Russian, get out, you're Russian, go back to your country, we don't want your embassy there. Everybody's like panicking.
That's a tribalism again, man. That's a tribalism. Like we don't want you guys to look better than us, so we're gonna probably, I think, like maybe you might understand. And so, like, I really started to study that more closely, like when the Syrian civil war was going on, like the whole thing with Hamas and the rebels and stuff, and then Russia was involved, and then the US was like they had the whole chemical gas situation, like around that time, right? That was going on for a while, and I was like, why are there so many players in this game? Right. So it was like first I went on, I was like, okay, what is the cause of this war? Right. And I was like, okay, this kid got arrested for vandalism. He was tortured, this and that. The public was outraged. Hamas has control over the military, this and that. Okay, cool. I get that. Why is Russia here? Oh, Russia has its whole it was once like this massive Soviet empire. They had all these allies. Now they're surrounded by a bunch of individual countries who are leaning towards Europe and the West. And Putin doesn't like that, right? The rumor has it, I guess, or the thing is that Putin wants Russia to make Russia great again, right? So bring the Soviet back together. There's like I'll tell you a joke maybe at some other time, but it's like he wants to bring Russia back together. So he wants to stay in Syria, one of the closer allies that they do have still. If they lose Syria, then they're surrounded by democracy, by America, right? And so that doesn't work out so well. And so it's also a reason why China is friends with North Korea, right? Why they are allies, because North Korea is that hub between South Korea and like the rest of Western democracy. Otherwise, you have your borders wide open. And so it's a whole thing of geopolitics. So it's quite interesting if you
look into that. Just let everybody travel wherever the hell they want to go to. No visa-free world.
No, but the terrorists. We got to stop the terrorists. Build that wall. So
visa-free world. Let everybody travel. I don't know. I believe God made the earth for all of us to roam as freely as possibly, and they put so many restrictions on people. And I get the point, because some people might want to not want to stay where it's cold because they want to go where it's hot.
I don't understand why people settled in the northern places like Canada. Like, it's this cold. Why would you settle here?
But why not? But why not? Right?
It's cold.
So
those are things that I don't understand. But yeah, it happened. That's just
at the end of the day, I just feel like the world should be ours, to do as we please, and they need to stop this nonsense.
In the beginning, God made the world and He made man. Like the world, land, the earth was made for man, right? If you want to go the biblical route.
Man is stupid, though. Man is real stupid.
Well,
that's man. Remember the Tower of Babel, and that's when all the different languages started. I know Bible,
Bible. Okay, so good. So you can correct me when I touch Bible stuff.
When you talk stupidness about Bible, I can correct
me. Correct me.
Right?
I've been beginning to get back into studying the Bible a bit more closely, especially the history per se, right? But all of that, there's this French philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and then he touched on, in the beginning, the world was just there, land, everyone just owned everything, man just settled, lived everywhere. Then one day, man decided he was smart enough to say, you know what, this piece of land here is mine, right? I'm going to box off this amount of land.
Nobody can cross it.
My land, I'll make a fence, you can't cross it, right? This piece of land is mine. And if you want to come here, you need to pay me. If you want to farm on this amount of land, you have to pay me. And then, so this man, he was deemed smarter than everybody else, or he claimed to be smarter than everyone.
Because now he was making money.
So he started taxing. Barter, barter
tax.
Tax. This is our land. This is my turf, right? And so that's when the idea of property came in. This is my property. Really, why is this your property? You have a piece of paper to say it's your property, or you will farm there? Well, it's mine now. And, it's just that was the origin of why we have borders in a way and turfs and stuff, because man just decided, I don't want to share. This part is mine. A certain selfish aspect of people started to develop, and that's where it started. And so these people decided, okay, I want to buy this from you, and started to trade things. And it's totally arbitrary, country lines, borders are pretty much arbitrary.
They're all over the place. Some of them don't even make sense.
Some of them don't make sense. And then, the funny thing is, countries, I see them as living things. They can be born and they can die, right? So there's people today who are born in countries that don't exist today.
Jeez.
Imagine being born in a country, and then maybe 20 years later, that country doesn't exist anymore.
That
particular,
Yugoslavia, and
well, that was a whole region, right?
Scandinavia,
and that's Croatia, right? Croatia used to be part of Yugoslavia, right? So man, I remember, the hostel I stayed in, I remember talking to the guy, because he was working in a hotel, he was a hotel manager when the whole war was happening. So he was telling me the story of what it was like during that war, right? And seeing all the ships and stuff, and could tell the difference between when it was all of Yugoslavia and when they divided up all the countries. It's like Africa as a whole, right? Africa, as we know it today, the 52 countries, it wasn't 52 countries until colonizers went in there, right? Until the Europeans divided that up. So that, again, you could just change those lines if you wanted. And that's why India and Pakistan also have an issue, because when England was in there, they divided up India and Pakistan, right? And that's when they left. And that's why, and they divided, there's so many different things that go into, I guess now, a country, into, right? Yeah, colonization did its job, man. It spread English, it spread this certain type of perception of what the world should or could look like, and it divided people, and divide and conquer, essentially. That's really what happened. Before that, you had tribes, right? In Africa, I don't think, someone comment if I'm wrong, if you know better, that it was just a whole bunch of tribes living in different places, right? And you had your conflicts in between the tribes and the countries, that's normal. But now you put them you divided them up. Maybe you had a tribe that was cool, and now they split them up. Yeah, but now you put them into one group, right? So now you have two conflicting tribes who have to now rule over a whole country on the world stage, right? Or
it's a mess.
it's quite messy, and those things kind of what frustrate me, because I think of that when I think of like the injustices you see in society and stuff today, right? Because all of these are like roots of it, these are the roots of it, and so you can't really get. I don't know how to put it yet, because I don't know what to do with all the information myself. I don't have any one ideology.
You know what? And if you knew what to do, you'd probably go crazy, because the
Well,
world is very complex, and
it's
that's the
complex, and
bottom
so
line.
and that's why I get mad at people who like have this. I don't get mad. I get frustrated with people who have one idea of what the world should be like.
Yeah,
Right?
and they want to put it in a box,
And
and
put
they
it in a
want you to
box.
be in the box with them.
I don't like boxes. I like to, like if everyone could just be free, but then it's weird. It's just like we can't complain about the past. We can only look at what we can go forward with now. Like where are we at now? How can we make this situation better?
It's all about improvement. It's all
Right?
about
It's improvement.
It's all
Right?
about making your life, your space, you comfortable,
Yeah.
and you hopefully live freely and
Yeah.
able to roam all about the place. And thank God you're Canadian, that you can roam all about the place.
Amen. Amen.
There's
That's the
not
thing.
there's not too many countries like Canada. I think Canada has one of the lowest rates of you need visas to go to different places with a Canadian passport.
It's a fairly powerful passport. It's easy.
Very, very, very few places, and thank God for that. But Daniel, I'm so happy that you could be on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank
Oh my
you for
God.
having me on the show.
I know the time difference is crazy. It's morning for you, it's evening for me.
Where we at now?
And we've gone like we're way over our hour. We're like an hour and 20
some more.
Going. I know you could run your mouth. You're just like your mother. You could run your mouth until Jesus come. Run your mouth until Jesus come. But it was so good to have you here on the show with me. Jana Austri is saying, I just wish that more people would get the opportunity to travel. It would be enlightened. And that is so true, because a lot of people are living in a box and they think that wherever they are that's all there is, and there's nothing else beyond that. And the world is such a beautiful place, and if you get to experience so many different countries, and I mean, I must applaud you. You are in the perfect job, in the perfect place that you can roam about freely. I didn't even get, because I wanted some tea on the relationship and stuff. I wanted to get into that, but you trick me. Yeah, you trick me.
I divert it. I'm gonna deflect.
I see when you did that. I was right there. I will let it pass. I will let it go.
Another time. We'll save it for another time.
Definitely another time. But it was a pleasure having you here on the show with me. I know you had to wake up very early to get organized.
I wake up like this every day. This is my early time. Wake up early every day.
Wow.
Every day I have to wake up early. Yeah.
But it was nice having you. I want to also thank all those who actually locked in.
Big up yourself. Big up yourself.
Yes, and shared and commented. Keep sharing the link. It's very important that you share it so other folks can see and enjoy, the show just like you did. So all you got to do is hit on the share button. If for some reason you probably missed the show, or you're probably unable to sit on Facebook to probably view the entire contents of the show in 24 hours, it'll be uploaded to the podcast. So it will be on my website. That's www.jaeljoseph.com/PLOG. I will, of course, put the information on my page once it's available, but you can go on there. You can go on there right now and you can see the others, and you can also go on iTunes. And I hope that everybody shares the video so that you can get to listen to all the fun Daniel and I had on Cacoa Tea today. Daniel, it was an absolute pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Indeed.
Thank you so very much for being my guest on Cacoa Tea. If you'd like to know more about Daniel, you can follow him All his social media handles are above in the link. So you could just go on there. He has his website, which is his name.com. You can go on there and you can follow his blogs. You can follow him on Instagram. He toujours on Instagram. You could follow him on Facebook. All his handles are up there for you. You can definitely reach out and stay abreast and in touch with Daniel and his travels. And probably he will not make you drool too much at all the different countries that he goes to, and he'll entice you to probably come along and join him on one of his amazing excursions.
If anybody has like any questions about anything, like my DM is always open.
Always.
Right?
He responds response time is very good for Daniel, which is surprising because you're a few 13 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, right now 13 hours. Yeah.
You're 13 hours ahead of us. Daniel, thanks again for being with us on Cacoa Tea. I hope your mommy made sure that you had enough Cacoa sticks when you went out there.
I have a bunch of cinnamon sticks, all of it there. Yeah, man.
You organize. Keep drinking that Cacoa to keep your chest nice and warm. When you make all your travels, you could put it. I saw one of your videos. You were drinking some beer, a Korean beer. I think it's supposed to.
It's a rice.
Yeah.
Watch my videos. I'm posting the videos. I'm putting up a post today. I missed last week, but yeah. Final words. If you want to educate yourself, read books and travel. Do one or the other. That's my advice. The advice my father gave me: read books and or travel. So if you can do one of those, that's the best way to educate yourself. Even like outside of school. That's what I do now. Just read books and travel. Check out a different city, meet new people, learn, ask questions. It
sounds good to me. Read books and travel. And thanks for that.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Drink Cacoa tea.
I did not explore on your business because I was going for it. I was heading there,
We're going next time.
Heading right there next time. Until next time, guys, don't forget to check out the podcast in 24 hours. It'll be up, and share the link. Thanks again for tuning into Cacoa Tea. Tomorrow we have another exciting show for you, so lock in right here again tomorrow, same time, same place. I have another guest coming on right here on Cacoa Tea. Thanks again. Goodbye, guys.